So this is the first session of 5 for Dungeon World, and this is for the Green Law of Varkith, which is a chaos world. One of 3 that Brandon Conway has released. They are strange, detailed settings that have very different approaches. They're all very distinct and different. So that's what we're playing today is Dungeon World. We're going to have 5 sessions of that. Just know that this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, which is an online gaming community. They've just opened up some new Patreon level memberships for that. So you can check that out. You can go there. You can also, this channel has a lot of videos on it, a lot, way more than it ought to. And if you're interested in actual play videos, you can subscribe to this channel. So this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts. Another thing that we have on the table is the fact that we do use safety tools. We are using the X card. And I know that all 4 of you are familiar with that, correct? With the use of the X card? Okay, they're nodding. For those of you at home, X card is a way for us to mark out tone or particular issues that we're not comfortable with or material that we don't like. And we can do that either a visible way this way, or it may occur in chat. If that happens, we're going to move around and past it. Rich made an interesting point that I'd like to throw out on the table when I was at Origins. If you hit something that the first time you hear it, like, yeah, I can go with that. I'm okay with it. But then as the game goes on, like when it reappears, it starts to bug you. And the example that Rich had for me that I'm stealing right now is they were at Origins, and one of the players named their NPC Steve. And there was a Steve at the table. And Steve was like, okay, that's fine. But about the 3rd or 4th time that it happened, he was like, okay, we need to change that NPC's name. It was a structural thing, but don't be afraid to roll back on that. This is Dungeon World as well. There are a lot of different flavors of Dungeon World, a lot of different ways that Dungeon World gets handled. We are using flags, for example, as a different way of doing things. A lot of GMs handle things differently. If we hit something for that needs to be rules corrected, I'd ask that you hold off until the end of the sequence. Don't interrupt, or call us back to it afterwards. I had some problems this week with people kind of jumping in to correct before the person could even get a chance to self-correct. So it's just a thing to watch out for, especially when we get a game that has so many different moving parts to it. So this is a fantasy game. I'm going to go through cats. About guild members. You are striving in a massive crossroads fantasy city. Our goal here is to have heroic fun, your heroic fantasy, and to build something. The guild is a shared character. You're going to be building and developing that. We're going to have a character sheet for it. Things are going to happen as a result. It's a little bit like Blades in the Dark, but much less procedural. And sort of the guild turns are irregular. It might be every couple of sessions or so on, and it's much looser structure to it. This is a game that is, as I said, heroic. The players are the good guys, but this is kind of a gritty world. It can be weird. We've got 10 different fantasy races that are very strange, but I don't think necessarily gonzo. And the purpose of this game, as opposed to, say, standard Dungeon World, which Dungeon World is kick down the door, steal the dragon, kill the gold, or however you put that. Here, we are going out and finding ways to enhance our guild, or doing the jobs, the things that our guild requires, and then adventure will fall out from that. So just keep that in mind. So I want to stop and see if there's anything about tone or about subject matter, or things that you really want to have or not have on the table. Anything that you want to see or not see. And this is all negotiable about those kinds of elements. So, Patrick, I'm going to throw it to you first. Coming into this, is there anything you're like, oh, I definitely want to see this, or I'd like us to not dwell on these kinds of tropes or fantasy elements or so on? That's a big question to throw at you right away.
Yeah, just a couple things to consider. So I think as far as, thank you, that's helpful. I think as far as lines, veils sort of thing. My standard sort of thing, and I don't think it's I don't foresee it being a big problem in this. Will you stop? Is I don't particularly want to see like violence to animals or bad, horrible things to animals on screen.
Okay.
It's okay to like deal with the aftermath of it or have it happen like off screen, as long as we just don't spend more than a sentence describing it.
Sure. Absolutely. That seems reasonable.
Does that mean that my puka gets extra armor? Is that what you're saying?
No.
I'm just checking. No, this is Patrick's line. Lowell, you respect it.
Yeah, you can't. No, it's monsters are exempt. Like cat people. No, I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's more the adorable things I can empathize with factor.
Okay. That seems fair.
Do whatever you want to people. I can't empathize with them. As far as things I'd like to see, Varkith seems like a super cool setting, and I'm sure we'll be digging into it. But I'd love to see some of the like weird mystical underpinnings and like the magics that enforce what goes on in Varkith. I'd like to see some evidence or outcome of that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, that does.
Okay.
I like that. Rich, how about you?
I wanted to check in with the group to make sure that everybody is comfortable, because I have envisioned Fam as the freed ones. That's a slavery thing, right? So this person was a familiar. Fam was a slave. And Fam's no longer a slave. So I want to make sure that everybody's cool with exploring that, because it definitely affected their personality and has affected Fam and how Fam sees people and how Fam reacts to the world. And I want to make sure that nobody has a problem with that, because if it's going to touch on issues for you or cause you to be uncomfortable, I'd like to know going in. I can just kind of shift alter the character before we get to that point. So anybody uncomfortable with that aspect, the idea of a familiar that has been freed and probably is still dealing with that?
No, I think that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it sounds great. I want to point something out. Whenever we get to my artificer, I have a construct, maybe more than one, or I might be able to get a construct, something like that. And at that point, there's a lot of tension where there's this construct that might be a slave that does tasks for me. Is it like a familiar? So that might be fun to lean into.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you're okay with that, because yes, I will 100% lean into that. Fam will be asking a lot of questions of your automatons when you're not around.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm totally fine with it myself. I actually thought of making a character at one point that had a similar background, so no quarrels here.
Nice.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Anything else, Rich?
Similar to cats or pets, animals, cute animals. Also, per standard for us, Lowell, no harm to children, even the weird ant colony children on screen.
Okay.
Yeah, just doesn't need to. It's not fridge any kids.
That sounds more than reasonable to me. Ruben, anything you want to point to, lines or veils or things you definitely want to see?
In terms of things I want to see, my character is, well, he may be coming off as a bard, but he's more of a shaman type of person. He's really focused on the idea that he's dead. He's got connected to the soul, and he often visits graveyards and tries to get information from the people of the past. He's not necessarily a historian, but he likes to record, interview, kind of like a news person. So I really want to see some interesting stories that once happened that define the world around us.
Okay, so exploring sort of how the dead are dealt with in the city, what the spirits are like, all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, some of them might be even rolling over in their grave.
Yep. Awesome. That sounds good. Yeah. I like that. Anything else?
As for veils, I might as well mention it since no one else has. I don't want to get too into any like sexual content. Like, it's totally fine mentioning it. It's totally fine saying that it's part of the plot, whatever. I just don't want to get into the deep talk of it.
Sure. Well, I mean, we'll fade to black on anything.
Yeah.
If moments of intimacy, we can easily do that. Is everyone else good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Awesome. Stephen, I'm going to give you last word in this.
Yeah, so I don't have any lines or veils or anything like that I don't think anyone has mentioned that I can think of specifically.
Okay.
As far as things that to lean into, I've been very excited looking up like pictures and stuff like that. Looking at the Varkith setting and looking at least the character that I've chosen, the Artificer, there seems to be a lot of magic involved, and this seems. I think I'd like to see more of a high magic or a wide magic kind of setting, kind of thing.
So we've got a lot of magic around. People are using it from mundane on up. Do you imagine that the magic that with the Artificer that is magitech, or is the tech sort of in parallel?
No, I think so. I leaned a lot into the race that I chose, which is the Dream Life or the Yim, which they have crystal tech. So I think these are magical things captured in crystals.
Okay.
So
crystalline
like crab-looking things, crystalline shards that are used as the magic items, things like that.
Okay. So mech is then tech is probably maybe black powder or below for the standard world.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not very fond of guns in my fantasy, right? I'm not a big thing with that. But I'm thinking, so magic isn't rare like it is in Conan. I'm thinking, since we have, a familiar, an undead, an illithid, and an artificer magic being, it seems like it's kind of a high magic setting, and I think I'd be disappointed if we didn't see, more of that.
Sure.
Magic kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So we'll kind of steer away from the tech stuff.
Well, yeah. just to touch on the tech, I just want to bring this up because it's in my playbook. I didn't make this choice, but one of the equipment choices for the Templar is a black powder pistol. And like I said, I didn't make that choice. I didn't want to do it. I didn't think a black powder pistol made sense for a water creature. But I wanted to bring it up. I'm okay with excising that and sort of cutting it out of our setting. But where do people feel?
My feeling would be is if you take it, it's super unique, given the setting. Like it's wild.
More of an alchemical approach to it than a science approach.
Here, I'm going to do a deep cut on D&D. It's like red steel, the powder Cinnabril from red steel in the D&D later stuff. So yeah, it's alchemical and magic and unusual if you decide to take that.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
All right.
Yeah, because just to throw in, Tham would rock a flintlock pistol. So, but I'm cool with it not being it being incredibly unique and weird and hard to find bullets. That's fine.
All right. Well, we've got some things on the table. Now, this is a crucial point. We are going to decide what your guild's purpose is. And the guild's purpose is, our purpose is to ... So we're to do something. And keep in mind that it isn't constraining. That's the public perception of your guild. That's what your stated goal is. It may be wide, maybe narrow. I want to give you some examples from the book that you can think about to keep the city streets safe, to procure magic items and artifacts for sale, to entertain the public, to keep the sewer systems working, to act as mercenaries for other guilds, to collect knowledge, to negotiate legal matters, to produce the best tasting food, to explore ruins, to exterminate vermin, to hunt down criminals, to create maps. Those are all kinds of ideas for guilds. And at risk of throwing it open, I am going to throw it open. Does anyone have an idea you want to put on the table? This is kind of a brainstorming moment that we can kind of make a quick list, maybe of some suggestions, and then we can kind of talk about that.
Do not want to hunt in the sewers. Do not want to fight monsters in the sewers. I'm just not strong enough to say X card, but like what's the letter before X? There.
Okay, so you're gonna Y card that. All right,
I'm gonna Y card it.
All right, that seems fair.
I was going to say no to the sewer cleaning as well.
Okay, and those are just examples. But yes, okay. I know that sewers are off the table. I'm going to write that down.
So if we look across the characters that we have, I would suggest something along the lines of we steal arcane devices from the past.
Ooh.
How does that fit for everyone else?
Well, I think it would definitely be liberate.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
We liberate.
I just have to say, I'm actually pretty excited because I've never seen a Templar in play before, and I've never seen an Artificer in play before. So I'm curious how those work out because I haven't seen the classes.
I think they'll be cool to see.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion myself for a possible guild.
Sure.
One that's goal is to dominate business dealings, and as an extension, sometimes by whatever means possible. So it's sort of like no one eats a loaf of bread without our knowing. That kind of business deal.
Okay.
Sort of the management of resources. Sometimes that means by bumping out the competitors. Sometimes that means by securing theoretical resource sort of mines and things of such.
Okay.
Can vary, but.
So that's another one on the table. So we've got liberating arcane devices from the past. We have dominate business dealings by whatever means necessary. Any other things?
There was one you mentioned that I'll just go ahead and throw out as being interesting to a thief. Is a very expensive restaurant that requires particular items that have to be procured, but that might be a little bit more of a travel log type deal. But that fascinates me, the idea of we really need Otyug berries. Can you go? But maybe for another time. But that tickles me for some reason.
It tickles me right in the same place. I like it too.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Just to fully complicate and throw a fourth one out on the table.
Okay.
Along with the sewer card, I was gonna immediately toss out the like exterminator type one, but then I thought about how that would combine with our desire for a really high magic setting, and so something like a weird crypto exterminator service, which I would imagine being somewhere along the similar lines as like Ghostbusters, but it would be encountering all the weirdo creatures that like nest in people's attics or in the cellar, but not sewers.
Right.
We only do above ground, whatever. But I just thought that one sounded sort of fun too.
To exterminate crypto magic beasts.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't include us, right?
Yeah. You're all people. Oh, so we've got some interesting things on the table. Now, just in terms of brainstorming, we've got these four. I'm going to read through them. If anyone is like, this is the one that kind of doesn't sound good to me, can I, let maybe move some things off the table and kind of get it down to like one or two, and we can talk about that. Does that sound like a reasonable approach? So we've got to liberate arcane devices from the past, to dominate business dealings by whatever means necessary, to procure expensive items for a restaurant, or we can rephrase that, or to exterminate crypto magic beasts. So, Stephen, any of those, you kind of started us off. You were nice enough to throw one on the table. Are there any of those that maybe you're like, I'm not so into that?
It's difficult to say. Yeah, no, I think I'm probably okay with all of them.
Okay.
The one I probably like least is probably the all the business dealings, and that's probably because I just got through playing Hack the Planet, so did some Blades in the Dark kind of stuff previously,
Okay.
stuff like that.
And that's fair. We can move that off the table if that's the one that's sort of least interesting to you.
Yeah.
Ruben, we've got liberate arcane devices from the past, procure expensive items, exterminate crypto magic beasts. Any of those that you're like,
I really I do like the sort of restaurant one, honestly. But I will say that liberating arcane items and getting rid of the magical beast, that seems like it might end up falling in the same category at some point, crossing over.
Okay.
You know, so I feel like one of those might have to go.
Okay. So well, let's.
That's sort of funny because I was seeing a potential crossover with the exterminate crypto magic beast and provide rare pieces for a restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry, we'll dispose of the body.
So let's take off
we've created a triangle.
Yeah, let's take off the crypto magic beast, which brings us to restaurant, procuring items, and certainly there will be some crossover there, or liberating arcane devices from the past. Rich and Patrick, I put this now in the two of you.
Go, Patrick, go. You vote, you.
They're both really good. I feel like magic items from the past hits more of our flags for Varkith.
Okay.
It deals with the high magic world. It deals with the weird enforcement that's going on in the city, and it deals with the history of things. So that might be the one that best describes what we said we wanted to see.
Can I toss something out?
Even if the restaurateur one sounds fun.
Sure.
What about combining them? If people are kind of reluctant and saying, "Oh, it would be great if we did the restaurateur," could it be that we're finding arcane spices from the past to use in the restaurant, or could it be that we're finding crypto monster components to use in the restaurant? Could we combine them? Would people be better with that?
I'd rather we have a clear purpose, just because for a campaign that would be super awesome, but for 5 sessions, I worry that it could get a little confusing.
So let's go with the liberate arcane devices, and that's very broadly written. Again, this is general purpose from the past, things that have been lost, things that people have acquired, things that have been buried, that people
things
are
that are
searching
being
for.
Underused.
Yes, they really could be put to better use out of the hands of particular people. All of that. So we've got that on the table. So let me get to my guild sheet here, the page. And so our purpose is to probably liberate arcane devices from past. All right, now the next thing that you decide before we kind of move on to talking about characters is your style. And for your style, you're going to pick 2 adjectives you think are associated with your guild. So we pick adjectives that describe the poles of your guild's reputation. And here's the examples that they give. You pick bloody and violent, that means your guild is only ever known for being dangerous, while if you pick honorable and violent, it means you're known to keep your word. And let me read some of the examples that they give here in the book. Secretive and bartering, mystical and gleeful, violent and surgical, affable and cutthroat, monstrous and dark, destructive and boisterous, sincere and direct, conniving and corrupt, murderous and stealthy, persuasive and professional. So we're going to pick 2 words that kind of describe some things from that.
Well,
yes.
Is it possible for you to cut and paste that into the chat?
Yeah, let me go open up the reader here.
If it's not, that's okay. But
no, it just takes a sec for me to do it.
So I have a clarifying question for people. How do people see like that purpose translating into advancement for our guild? Like, what do we do with this stuff? Do we run an antique shop? Do we collect things for like expensive collectors? Are we working for like a museum? What do people see us doing with the things once we find them? Nothing. Hoarding them forever.
I could also see selling them in a back alley. I could also see having a patron. So I kind of like your idea of the antique store.
I sort of do too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was the one that it reminded me of the old TV series Friday the 13th.
Yes, Tyler talks about that one all the time. Okay, so that gives me sort of a clear focus on what we're doing.
So wait, we're doing this for like antique stores and stuff like that?
Or your own antique store?
Our own. Fam complains about getting extra shifts. Why do I have to wake up early?
It's like a museum, but you sell the stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep. Good. Smell of musty tomes. We got a workshop in the back for all of the kept ones.
There's some things that you have to keep under lock and key because they're too dangerous to get out there.
Chain down books.
Okay.
Classic.
Liberate arcane devices from the past for our, and I'm going to put museum in quotation marks. So I put the examples that the book gives for those. Anybody have a strong sense out of what we've said? Or you're feeling now? I'm almost hearing mercantile as you know, one of them potentially. But anybody feel strongly about one of those?
It seems like dark might actually fit in there. I feel like we're going more into the dark, sort of forbidden kind of items. I think that's sort of where we're headed. This is the kind of stuff that we would be delving into the tombs that most people would pay top dollar for just because of the dangers of it.
What do you guys
just so
think?
we could get our hands on that.
Anyone feel like that or a modification of that?
It's something like exclusive cover that same sort of thing, or like I don't know, something like words fail me.
So it's the proposal on the table is mercantile and dark.
Well, the mercantile was just me talking. The dark is about you guys delving into dangerous and risky areas.
So what I see is if we have something that is business related, so mercantile is a good word for that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Templar and we have a thief that are very customer facing kind of things. So I think that might be good. Is that the kind of thing you guys would like to do?
Honestly, sorry.
No, go on, please.
Honestly, I feel like the mercantile thing just hooked with us, even though it was just a suggestion.
Mm-hmm. So, Rich, are you a hidey, quiet thief, or are you like a up in your face, I'm going to pick your pockets while we're talking kind of thief?
Oh, that is a great question. Fam's not super strong, so I don't think it's in your face so much. Although picking pockets is always fun. That's not actually a move. It would have to be just a defy danger to do something like that. Probably sneaky around would be Fam style.
And then, would you like to have an audience for your speeches? Patrick, for your Templar?
Yeah, it's a good question. Are you proselytizing? Are you merely is the part of this that your sort of Templar's purpose is getting things and selling them, but maybe putting dangerous things away? You're muted.
For a stupid mute button. I don't know if I see using the implacable faith on large audiences that often. Like proselytizing. I think I see him more as like a friendly but very off-putting harbinger of humanity's imminent doom. You know, the ancient ones are going to awaken, and it'll be lovely, and the searing pain will be eternal, and you'll all be turned inside out and remade in their image. And it's just like, that's the best thing that could happen.
Let me suggest a combo here.
Sure.
That overlaps. How about mercantile and shadowy? Operating in the shadows a little bit. You are working shadowy. You are working at this sort of these potentially darker things. What do you think of that?
I can dig it.
That sounds good to me.
Yep, that works.
Are you okay with that, Ruben? Okay. All right. So I can spell mercantile and not apologize for it. So apparently that was me. Mercantile and shadowy. All right. So we've got that sense of things. What we're going to do is then I want to set our stats, and then we are going to talk about characters. So you have 5 stats for your guild. They all start at -1. Look at that. Isn't that terrible? It's senses, which is about collecting information, discerning strengths. Might, which is about violently attacking other guilds. Influence, which is about striking deals, manipulating systems, interfering with other guilds. Powers, about performing magical rituals. And territory, which is what you roll when you're resisting other guilds' actions. None of their stats can be higher than your territory. And because this is a short game, you are going to have enough points that you can add up to a total of +1.
Oh.
So you could, for example, go just 0 across the board and +1 in another one. Or you can leave 1 at the -1. There are all kinds of combos.
So we have 6 points to spend then?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, what if we leave might at -1? Because I don't really want to do any guild wars right off.
Yeah, I saw senses and influence as like good for the business side of what we're doing. Depending on what we want to do with some of the magic artifacts, powers might be a good one too.
Okay. So you have 6 points. I'm going to take those both to 0 right now.
Which means territory would have to be 0 too.
Okay. Which means you have 3 points left to spend. Ruben, Stephen?
I'm thinking that at first I was thinking that might actually not be a good thing, but if another guild is interested in the kind of artifacts that we're looking for, we might actually have to use it against them. So if anyone else thinks that might be a possibility, it may be worth investing in might to a degree, at least to a 0.
That would give you 2 points left.
I think senses is probably going to be really useful because we're trying to figure out a lot of different things about these places that have the actual stuff we need.
That's true. Ruben, if I had to push you to go, senses is more interesting to me, or might is more interesting to me, which one would you say?
I would say senses. Senses
Okay.
just gives the actual information. Might is more overcoming obstacles.
So you get 2 points left. Stephen.
Well, one of them has to go in territory now.
Got 1 point left. Stephen.
If I put a point in, so I think census is the most important. We're pretty high on census right now. We might need to strike deals since we do have mercantile. So I could go either census or influence. I'm concerned if we go census, that would put us over the limit because of territory.
So that seems to me like you're saying influence.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's what we have. That is on the table. All right. So with that in mind, we are going to look at everybody's characters. I want to go around. I want to have you tell us who you are, what you're thinking about with your character. If you've chosen your flags, maybe say what you're thinking with those, and get those.
Can we talk for a second about flags? Because you mentioned it lightly, but are we choosing multiple flags?
So you would choose you can choose as many flags as you have bonds. And essentially, the way this works is at the end of the session, we ask, has anyone activated one of your flags? If so, you get an XP. And if you've activated someone else's flags, you get an XP. So it's essentially generating 2 extra XP potentially at the end of the session.
Okay, because there's nowhere in the, I know it's an older sheet, so we just replaced bonds with flags, and now you're saying you have as many flags as you have bonds. So we'll need to add a little space for bonds. That's cool.
Yeah. So let's. Well, we're not going to have bonds at all. We're just going to have the flags.
Oh, you're saying so where your character sheet had bonds, we're now getting that number of flags.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think
could we maybe like cut that down to 3 instead of 4 or something? Just because
I was just about to say that's a great idea. I like that.
At 3, that's 9 flags to look at for your fellow players, and that's a lot.
Okay. And there is the PDF for the flags in the thing, and you don't have to decide on all of them now. You can decide them as we go along, But we want to definitely keep the table informed. You guys are on my little screen in the order of your characters on this thing, which puts Patrick in the hot seat. I know.
You roboted for like the last 20 seconds for me.
Oh, okay. So I'll go real quickly through that. Instead of bonds, you can have flags.
Okay, I got that.
You'll have 3 flags. When we come to you, don't have to set all of them. You can set some of them later.
Okay.
Okay. So, Patrick, how do we pronounce your name, or what do we call you?
You're muted.
Oh, muted. Human ears cannot hear your name. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes. No, I was saying you pronounce my name incorrectly.
Okay.
I do have 1 flag at least chosen out, which is mangle or mispronounce my real name or another word from my impossible language.
I love it. That's super appropriate.
But you can call me Sig. If I had to take a stab at this, you'd think I would have tried this before. But Sigiat al-Zazak would be something vaguely close to it. But again, you're pronouncing it wrong.
Okay. And you are a Templar.
I'm Templar of the ancient ones, the abyssal gods, the sleeping deities under the waves, of whom I'm just a happy messenger to spread their message of the oncoming apocalypse and the new world that will be bent and forged from the twisted screaming remains of this one. Glorious be their names.
All right. And what do you look like?
So I sort of look like a detective noir illithid. I found a very interesting picture. Purple-skinned, sort of squid-headed creature with tentacle mouths, long tentacles coming down. One of my pieces of equipment was an inquisitor's coat, so I have a very dashing black trench coat sort of thing. He's got incredibly tight, skinny black jeans on. It seems weird for the setting, but there you go. He follows his own way in fashion. Let's see. Strong and very wisdomy and pretty charismatic-y in a strange way. Like I said, I see him as being friendly and affable, and you don't really get the sense of menace that his words would seem like they imply.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
He has a metric shit ton of hit points.
That you do.
Which is just shocking to me. I don't even have that good of a con. Let's see. I can threaten people to make them do better. I can order around NPCs because of my very important position, or because they're afraid of the sea gods. Something, we'll figure it out. I can sit down and have a private chat with an NPC Inquisition and get stuff out of them. And I see that. I almost see that. We'll see when we get into it, as being like heritage from an illithid past. Maybe some tentacles, maybe some slight brain sucking. You know, just normal Inquisition stuff.
All right.
And then unrelenting, I'm hard to get rid of. The Visliga stuff that I have is I can preach to a crowd. I am unnerving, and I can parlay with wisdom instead of charisma sometimes. And I occasionally have dreams of the apocalyptic and horrible future that's to befall us all. Again, glory be to their names.
So your polite and gentle manner sort of belies the apocalypse that you're preaching?
Yes.
Okay. So people can generally get along with you, and they kind of laugh at the apocalyptic visions, and that's Sig.
It also belies the fact that I'm quite strong, and I think by far the tankiest person here.
And what are you using weapon-wise?
I've got a long sword and a shield. Definitely like I'd like the shield to be coral. I think that sounds cool.
Okay.
And a sword that's just somewhere along a very like swirly tentacle design sort of feel on it.
And you picked one of your flags there.
Yes, which is mangle or mispronounce my real name, or another word from my impossible language.
Okay. So that gives us a good basics. I'm going to come back to you because I'm going to ask you to give us a friend outside the guild and a rival or enemy outside the guild, so we can establish a couple of NPCs as well. And I'm going to ask you about how you know one of the other players, a relationship question.
Cool.
But I'm going to move over to Fam. Fam the Puka. Rich, tell us about Fam.
Fam the Puka is a freed one. There's an entire small community of outcasts who used to be familiars of very powerful wizards and sorcerers, witches, and the like. And Fam had one, or was one, and had a master, and escaped. Fam does not talk about what happened to their master. Fam does not talk about their master much at all, but occasionally wakes and has fitful dreams and wakes and is up in odd hours of the night, walking around the shop, reading things and just trying to keep themselves occupied. Fam has nervous hands and really likes to fidget and have things that are nice and pretty and expensive because they're comforting. And that's Fam. Fam's a little skittish, a little cowardly, and Fam is a she. Sure, Fam's fine. If people call Fam a girl, that's fine. Fam's okay with that.
Does he think that's the sort of assumption that people make when they see you?
Look at Fam. Fam, obviously. So there we go. Fam, she's she likes stealing things. She likes having expensive stuff, but is always worried about showing it. So she has like an entire closet filled with expensive things that have gotten over time that most would fit her. And she doesn't wear them because people would take them away from her. But she wears them sometimes, in her room, and then puts them back very nicely. That's Fam.
Tell us about your moves, and then I want to ask you a couple questions about the freed ones.
Oh, well, the thieves' moves, of course, expert on traps, picking locks and picking pockets and disarming traps, backstabbing people, attacking surprise or defenseless enemies, and flexible morals. Whenever you ask Fam what her alignment is, she can tell them any alignment she likes. And she also has the master of the care and use of a poison. I think that I'm going to go with the I actually hadn't chosen this. I meant to, and then I put it aside, and now I'm coming back to it. Yeah, I think Serpent's Tears sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not so good to the people that she uses it on.
And don't forget to look at your moves for your race or for your people.
Oh, yeah, I
you
should
get
do that.
3 custom moves that Brendan has carefully crafted.
Holy crap, I've got work to do, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll fix it.
So I've been doing that, and I'll give you a hint. Lowell is awesome and put the custom moves into one of the tabs so you can cut and paste it.
Yep.
Aww.
I think I typed 2 of mine in before I realized, oh, look.
I did not realize that. I typed all of mine in.
Oh, dude.
That's because Lowell is awesome.
All that time pulling a Rich, getting everything up into the sheet for you guys.
Yeah, look at that. There's a whole tab that even says People's Custom Moves. If only I'd read those.
Yep.
In any case, basically you have a bonus to spouting lore related to magic, the type of magic that you're made for, and you can do that once per session. You can do detect magic, which is nice. You get some animal features you get to choose for your puka, and people don't like you.
Yeah, sad but true.
What else is new with us? I don't think anyone likes undead either.
Yeah, there's some issues there. So that is the thing. We know that people in the city kind of look at the freed ones and are nervous about them, especially people who've worked with magic. Is a high magic society, so the freed ones represent a real change in the way that magic operates. People are nervous about that. Is there a tight community of freed ones or a loose one? How do you imagine that?
So early on, there was a tight community, and then some of the freed ones sold out some of the others' locations so that Wizards could come get them back. Now it's a loose organization because we don't even trust each other.
Oh, mutual mistrust.
We want to, though, because no one understands but another freed one.
And in Varkith, since the free ones are out and about, it is generally illegal to enslave a freed one. I think that we established that as a Varkith law. So if anybody is grabbing up people, a la Dragon Age, then it is illegal.
Where does it sit legally? Because I know the material talked about like really old wizards that are still holding on to their familiars, but what about like, is there a law against new casters binding new familiars?
I don't think so. I think the law is if the freed ones come to Varkith, that they are considered people of the city. It's the question of sort of rebinding them. I think that is the issue. I expect it gets complicated when you go down.
But I mean, like, what about a Varkith wizard? Like, brand new, I just learned my first spells wizard today. Is it illegal for him to summon and bind a new familiar? Or
I don't think so. I think to create a new familiar is probably not a thing that is illegal at this moment. But that's so probably a point.
Sort of a legal in between point.
Yeah, I think
they're still changing.
I think
this is very much like the North and the South back in the day, where they had the free states and they had the slave states, where you could buy slaves back then. But if you made it over to the free states, you were just a free man, and you couldn't be recaptured. That was until they made the law for it. But that's kind of the time period it seems more similar to.
And we'll lean into that as much or as little as you guys want to as we go through, Rich. And if any of that doesn't fit with your conception, we'll shift it. Anything else you want to tell us about FAM now that you've got your stuff? Do you tell me one of your animal traits you think you definitely want to take?
Oh, the fluffy tail.
All right. Do you have any of your flags?
I do. The flags for FAM. Believe and act on a lie I've told you. Allow me to challenge your faith in a deity or an institution, Sig. Point out a treasure that is in a forbidden or dangerous place so I can try to get my hands on it, like my job.
That's perfect.
Now, if I remember correctly on flags, the person who hits the flag on my sheet, they are going to get an XP, right?
Yeah. So what it is at the end we say, Rich, did anyone hit any of your flags? And if you say yes, then you get a point. And then we say, did you hit anyone else's flags? If you say yes, then you get a point. All right. Let's go.
Where in the sheet do we put our alignment?
That is a good question.
There's not a slot for it, and I'd honestly forgotten about that.
How about a
we're putting on row 4? Nobody has anything in row 4.
I think row 4 looks good.
All right, cool.
Like right under the race that we just put down.
Yeah. That sounds good. We are saying the same thing. All right. I'm going to move on to Ruben. Rich, I'm going to come back. We're going to finish up these descriptions, then we'll take a little break, and I'm going to come back and ask you some NPC questions and some relationship questions. So just to tell you what's going to happen. Let's talk with Ruben. Ruben, tell us about Hexatroth?
Yes, Hexatroth. So the way he died is not necessarily known to him, and it's not necessarily known to him what type of human he is. He knows he's a human. He doesn't necessarily know what type of sub-race of human he is, really. Okay. He does know he didn't drown like most of them because his body isn't bloated. Could have been strangulation, could have been starvation, could have been whatever. But overall, he doesn't really care. What he cares about is finding out more information about other people rather than himself. Sometimes he tends to get on other people's nerves, but that's usually more the living than the dead. The dead are usually more than happy to give him information because they don't really have many chances to tell their story. And he takes advantage of that, using his nature to sort of be a historian, more or less. He enjoys knowledge of that specific nature. Like, he doesn't seek knowledge in the same way that mages do, where they try to find magical, arcane secrets and things like that. He wants to find out what Varkith was like in the past through the eyes of other people. And sometimes, though, even though he does write everything down sort of word for word, sometimes he makes really gullible assumptions and sort of gets on the wrong side of the story, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly so smart. He notes everything down, but if he ever makes his own opinions, it might be skewed. He does try to be sort of very polite and cordial with people, if for no other reasons than to get into more graveyards.
Okay.
And
it does mention on your arcane art that you weave that magic into a performance.
This is correct.
What kind of performance is it? Is it oratory? Is it song? Is it a musical instrument?
It's outright song. He uses a book of a forgotten language, which he treasures very much, because the idea of a forgotten language beyond all the known races is a very rare thing, especially one that he has yet to encounter a dead spirit that even knows of this language. Ooh. So to him, the fact that it's lesser known adds value to the knowledge of it. So he proudly pulls out the book, sort of scrolls through it, says, "Yeah, this is the song I want," and starts singing. It's a beautiful tone, in addition to the scratchy voice from his sort of torn vocal cords. But
interesting.
The magic sort of helps.
I like it. And did you pick some of your flags?
Yes, I did. They go along with it, which is basically what I said. Ask me about the history of a place is 1. Defer to me when dealing with polite society is 2. And help me to unearth hidden lore about somebody who is dead is 3.
Ooh, nice. That's a really good set of flags there for you. And in your picture, you have that nice sort of suit. You mentioned that's how they're dressed.
I would say they have a variety. Uh, all of them have their different styles, representing their life from beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And people who meet him might ask him what exactly kind of society the suit is from. He gives the rare answer of he actually doesn't really know,
Okay.
which might actually leave some people a bit uncomfortable or a bit suspicious, or perhaps simply intrigued, depending on their personality. But he really doesn't know.
Do you imagine that there is a society of the Felgrith, or are they very much independent from one another?
I would imagine that because people are so unsettled by the dead, they tend to cling to one another as kin. Because no living creature really truly accepts them down to their core, and they've grown very, maybe not quickly. A lot of them have been in denial, trying to reconnect with the living. Sometimes find out who their loved ones once were, but over the time that's taken, they've sort of acknowledged that they can trust each other to know each other more than the living can. That's not to say that they distrust the living, but that they sort of have a understanding that the living will never truly accept them as equals.
And you've got some heritage moves. One of them is that you get to add one to either your strength, dexterity, or con at the start.
As you can see, I did that to dexterity.
Awesome. Get that symbiosis, and of course we got the challenge of healing for you.
Yeah, I did start out with bandages, which makes sense because I can sort of just wrap them around and repair myself with them. They're the second best thing I've got, but once I get my first 20 coins, I know what I'm spending it on.
Yes.
Or not coins, but
jade
whatever
pieces.
They're called.
Yeah.
Jade pieces. Yeah.
Perfect. That sounds great to me. Thank you. I'm going to come back after our break and ask you about an NPC friend and a rival and a relationship with another PC. Let's go to Turiel.
Yes.
Okay.
So Turiel is a Yim, also known as Wisps or Dream Life. They were indentured servants from by wizards and people like that. They were pulled across from their home dimension where everything is pure magic, and they were contained in a crystal. This crystal caused servitude. However, at some point, some of the Dream Life were able to rebel. They were able to become more free-willed. Their crystal binding did not keep them, and they rose up against their masters. They then decided that we'd been watching this place for a long time, but we couldn't ever come over here because as soon as we did, we just dispersed. However, the crystal allows us to keep our form, so we find it very entertaining to come over here. So we started developing the crystal tech and the crystal methods to bring more and more people over. So my race can change their shape. They are also made out of magic, so I get an additional question on discern realities. What here is magical? The only way my race can die is if the crystal is destroyed. If they are brought to 0 hit points, they reform around their crystal in a 6 hours or something like that. But if their crystal gets destroyed, then they disperse and they're gone. So as such, I'm playing an artificer class. As an artificer class, I imagine she does a lot of her work in crystal, piecing together different crystals to form magical things. As an artificer, I have gadgets. So my gadgets are, let's see, an ectoplasmic beam suit, which gives me the alternate movement of ethereal, so I can pass through objects. I have alchemical field goggles, which help me pierce armor. They're targeting kinds of things. I have a crystal shard amplification device, which is an element of spirit, so that's a weapon. and attacks the spirit.
What does that look like?
I think it's actually a series of different colored crystals that are snapped together and have runes along their edge. So it's almost like a hand device that shoots beams.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I have a magnetic field boots, which allow me to hover. So kind of a ghosty, ethereal hovering, moving through solid walls.
I like that.
My flags are ask me to examine an important arcane object, ask me to fix something that is broken, and talk to me about my people's home dimension.
Oh, nice. So again, good ones that fit nicely with the setup here. Do you think that there's a tight relationship amongst your people, or are they pretty loose and independent?
No, I think that they're very tight. They tend to live in the same area of town. That basically, I'm tight with my people in that I'm learning and trying to explore how to build crystals better. So we have this whole society based around, or this whole business based around building the crystals to pull more people over, or more entities over that can explore this exciting new place.
Excellent. I like that very much. And again, we're going to come and check in with NPCs when we come back.
Oh, my alignment.
Yes. Oh.
My alignment is neutral. It is salvage a lost or forgotten piece of technology.
Oh, another good one. Yep.
I had a quick question for you, Stephen, and I guess for you, Rich, as well. So, Stephen, when you're describing like the history and plight of the crystals, it sounded honestly very similar to the familiar situation. Just I'm guessing further back in time. So, like, do you feel camaraderie with their struggle, and conversely, do the familiars feel close or supported by the crystals?
So in reading the text, I got a little bit of a feeling that there wasn't necessarily much animosity between the Yim and the wizards. The wizards are scared of the Yim because they're undying and made of magic. But I think the Yim have basically put that past them, and they're just excited to be able to play around in this world, and the wizards kind of figured out a way to do it. Now they are not very happy with being made into prisoners. I think they've moved on. I'd kind of like to explore that relationship between with the freed ones in play.
So, like, what you're saying is that they've escaped and they don't kind of recognize a similarity between their situation in the past and what the freed ones go through.
I'm not exactly certain if they do. I'd kind of like to figure out if that's something we want to touch on. Yeah.
Okay. What
How
do you
about
think?
you, Rich?
It seems like there is a similarity, but your viewpoints are opposite. The freed ones never really let go of the past, but you sort of moved on.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you might find similarities in your past when you sort of go over it, but you're going to have different viewpoints at the end of the day.
Rich,
That's what
what do
sounds
you
like.
think about for the freed ones? Since you're sort of our voice for it, how do the freed ones view the Eam?
They are extremely jealous of them. They've been freed for, like, it's just a story to them. It's not real. It hasn't happened to them anything recently. The wizards fear them. Okay, great. They have this history, but like we just escaped. Like, but this is a nice fireside story. So there's a great deal of jealousy there.
Nice. I like that. I've got one more thing. Patrick, it looks like you filled in your other two flags. Do you want to tell us what those are before we?
Sure. So the other two ones I filled in were attempt to reassure someone so I can make it clear how unnerving I really am. And ask me for my help in interrogating someone.
Awesome. Okay. So those are our flags. Those are basics. We're going to take a 6-minute break, refresh beverages, bio break, whatnot. When we come back, I'm going to go in the same order. I'm going to ask you about a friend, a rival, and we're going to establish a relationship with another PC. So that is the deal. That is how we're going to go.
Hi, Ruben. How's it going?
It's going okay. A little loud in the background, but it's going okay.
I don't think I played with you before. Have we?
Probably not.
Okay. Where are you located?
Well, in terms of RPGs, I'm doing a campaign with Spencer. In terms of actually IRL, I am, I would say, somewhere around. Well, it depends on what day of week, but Scarsdale, New York.
Oh, okay. And I'm in Austin, Texas. So
Oh.
I usually try and talk to people about like what time zone they might be in, because like I just got through playing a game that was like in my evening with a couple of people from New Zealand and Australia. So it was their morning, and it was kind of interesting to see. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the less fortunate part of the time zone for my games. 10 o'clock is a bit early for me, and the game I have tomorrow is at 10 p.m., which is a little late for me.
Oof.
So, but for them, it's like 7 o'clock. So, I have the shorter end of the stick, in my opinion.
All right. So we're going to come back and we are going to start. I want to get some names on the table, NPCs. We're also, your group is going to have a couple of markers on other guilds, and we'll talk about what those might be. So, Patrick, I want to start with you. And I want to ask you, outside of the guild, which we don't have a name for, we'll have to figure out when we're going to call your museum. That's a thing. I'm just going to call it the museum for the moment. Outside of the museum, who is a friend or an associate that you know, kind of an anchor person, a person that you can kind of turn to?
So I very nearly went with the Sikix race, just because they were so fucking cool. So I think it'll be one of them. Kalanon.
Okay.
And I think he is, unsurprisingly for them, a scholar, someone who studies language. And I think to tie it into the whole, like, mangling my people's language flag, I think there's something, like, mystically difficult about learning the Elder Tongue. I think it's sort of a situation like the more you learn of it, the more it eats other languages out of your head.
Ooh.
So I think this Kalanon is someone who has been really interested in learning the Elder Tongue, and we've done a number of different experiments, like me writing some of the script on him, and it absorbs into his being, and he sees what that does, and he's trying to learn, like, from, Cthulian primer texts. See the Shoggoth eat the Shire. Things like that. So I think that's sort of the personal connection there.
Okay, I like that. Kalanon, a 6/6.
6/6. Okay.
Yeah, I do have under the tab with the the people's custom moves. I have put my pronunciation for each of the races there.
Ooh, cool.
That's how I'm going to try to pronounce them. So, who is a adversary or a rival or something like that? Somebody you don't dig.
Names are my bane. I have a less clear thought on this, but so my connection was very personal. The rival, I'd like to tie something into the guild, so like a guild rival.
Okay.
Let's say someone that works at an actual museum.
Okay.
Like a real museum that procures things legally and doesn't sell them to people.
Okay. Let's call that the Bonehaven.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go with a Dorvy.
Okay.
For that. Yeah, so given the Dorvies' history, and their like curse and inability to work with stone anymore, I could see them, or at least factions of them, like very much fetishizing stonework, masonry, statuary, things like that. So I think there was like a lost temple idol statue.
Sure.
That was just like brilliantly carved and maybe had some magical properties to it as well, that we liberated from the sort of like neutral ground place where it was while they were working on procuring it through more standard means.
Perfect. Do you have a name, or do you want a name?
It's going to take me to. If you have a name, throw some out there.
Sure, we'll call it Anric Mist.
Ooh, love it.
I am cheating because I make up big lists of these things beforehand.
I do when I'm running too. It's a very clever thing.
All the things. So I'm going to ask you about essentially the next player in line. Okay. Before you met our fam, the Puka, you had heard some rumors about them. What were those rumors, and how did fam kind of show you that they might be wrong?
I think I had heard some rumors about like Fam the anarchist, Fam the destructive activist for the familiar cause, who had like incendiaries and explosives and wild destruction sort of thing. And this very like sense of a calculating bomber, sort of resistance terrorist. And I think the truth is that like going with that leap into danger without a plan, sort of going after things you shouldn't, I think there are just some wild situations that Fam barely managed to get out of, and some like really intricate magical traps that blew up a building at one point, but she didn't start that fire, sort of thing. And it's been this slow revelation from like mastermind plotting terrorist to like, oh, she just really likes touching shiny things. Gotcha.
Fam, you good with that?
So good with that. So very good with that.
Awesome. So that gives us Kalanon and Anric Mist as NPCs there on the table. And we've established one of the guilds that's probably on your level, the Bonehaven, another museum. Fam, let's come to you. Tell me about a friend, a person you know, a contact, an anchor for you outside the group.
Savum is Dorvi, and he is a fixer. He has helped Fam find buyers for our stuff in the past before we had a place, where we could sell things. And so Fam has continued to be really good friends with Savum. Savum helps Fam find shops to buy stuff, fancy stuff, and always has advice to give. And Fam completely trusts Savum. He's a solid guy who's never sold her out. So you use that however you wish.
Okay. I like that, especially since the Dorvi have some resentment of magic, so that's a good connection there. I like that, and they're the ones, they have all those weird scars in their skin when you see them. Then what about a rival or an enemy, or someone you just don't dig?
Oh, it is the Orkari female known as Killick. Calls herself the Hunter of Prey, and she's never actually done anything to Fam, but constantly is like, yeah, I'll just take you back. And there was a point at market when Killick grabbed Fam and pulled her sleeves back to show all the area where there are old scars around her wrists from the chains, and said, "See, the chain scars are still fresh. You just need to be taken back to where you need to be."
Ooh. So is Killick maybe a part of a guild that are bounty hunters?
Like a hunter, bounty hunter brat.
Okay.
That sounds awesome.
We'll call them the Worshipful Company of Fetchers.
Ooh, that sounds great. I can't believe you came up with that right off the top of your head.
Modification is something else, but I like it.
Yes.
Worshipful Company of Fetchers. So that's another guild we have out there. Hexatroth. I'm gonna ask Rich about you. When you were on a recent job, fam, a recent task, and things went kind of bad, Hexatroth helped you out. What did they do, and did they do it secretly or openly?
Oh, Hexatroth paid my bail and got me out. Wasn't my fault, so he understood. It was fine.
Had you expected Hexatroth to do that?
I didn't know anyone knew I got pinched. I didn't really want them to know because it's very embarrassing. I'm better at my job.
Actually, it was kind of embarrassing. I talked to one of his deceased family members, and they kind of showed me where to find the bail. They were sort of shaking their head when they talked to me about it, and I was like, all right, so there's this guy. Don't worry, I've got your back. I've got his back. You can rest easy now. How much of the money do I get to keep again?
Okay, so it's a complicated thing, and there is a more friendly relationship there, but of course, Hexatroth knows weird things, so that works for me. Let's come to Hexatroth. Hexatroth, tell me about a friend or anchor or ally that you have.
So Hexatroth knows a particular. Let me look at the pronunciation. Cricktree. On sort of, I would call it a one-on-one basis, but it's more like a billion-on-one basis, considering what they are. It sort of all started when Cricktree was. He's actually kind of weird sort himself. Cricktree are known to sort of be outcasts, sort of like the same way Felagryths are.
Mm-hmm.
But this one sort of tended to hold funerals for some of the ants that tended to die in his colony. A very rare tradition, considering there are so many of them. So occasionally he would spot Felagryth at the graveyard, and it would be very intriguing, and he would sort of be touched by the fact that Felagryth kept in contact with all these deceased members of his own, species and species about. It sort of gave a message of unity to him, one that he resonated with very much.
Do you have a name for this Cricktree?
Yes. This would be Everdum the Legion.
Okay, I'm gonna have you put that in the chat. Gives us a sense of how the Cricktree form their names. I like that.
Yeah, being Cricktree, he's sort of part of an upstart guild as well, and more of an informative one, considering that the Cricktree are always scattering about their colonies looking for information on the job. We sort of like to exchange stories, exchange information, and exchange a drink every now and again.
So do you have a name for this info seller guild that they belong to?
I would call them the Multitude.
Okay.
They go on the idea of eyes everywhere, ears everywhere.
Okay. And what about a rival?
I would say this is an Orkari paladin that claims to be of heroic descent and is sort of clinging to that. I'll call him Griaf the Great. And he only calls himself the Great, not because it's traditional for Orcari to call themselves that,
Mm-hmm.
but because he's trying to cling to his family's tradition. And a lot of people do respect him for it, because a lot of people do have fear and respect for the heroes. And him being a descendant of one, he tries to carry out the tradition held by paladins of knocking down whatever dead he can find, even the
Okay.
ones that are socially acceptable.
So you
So
crossed your paths in a violent way before.
it hasn't gotten to violence yet, but he's the kind of guy who would be more than happy to interrupt any endeavors that I'm in.
Okay.
He was especially pissed off when he saw me communicating with the dead, which, while it's something that every Felagryth can do, it's a very rare chosen job. Something you don't see every day, and it sort of left a taste of disgust in his mouth.
Okay. When this regarding Turiel, one of your compatriots, so you discovered that you and Turiel share a hobby or an interest of some kind that is somewhat unusual, and we'll have you say what that is, and we'll check in with Turiel, make sure that works. What might be something that you share?
All right, with Turiel. Well, Turiel is more of a gadget person. I would say Turiel has helped me sort of reassemble the gadgets of the dead. And as we've unearthed them, I would sort of speak to them for instructions on how they want to work with it. Turiel would sort of work together with it, see how they can be improved, how they can be changed, how they can be restored. And it's sort of been a joint project that we've worked on together as a hobby.
Okay, so like model airplane building or a restoration and cleaning, that kind of thing, little maker club. Okay, does that seem good to you, Turiel?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, Turiel, let's come to you. Tell us about a friend, contact, anchor.
Yes. So I have a friend named Mouse who is a Devore thief and has helped quite a bit in finding some of the stuff that I've been looking for. They're good at getting in and out of places. And I think that Mouse is one that I think would be a good addition to our guild.
Have to pull them away from the guild they're with, though.
Yeah. However, I think that there's some other people in the guild who don't think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would that include Fam the Puka?
That's up to them.
First of all, Mouse is a terrible name, and that's only the beginning of the litany of reasons that we should not allow a mouse into our guild. Our guild is perfect the way it is. We do not need a dwarvy female named Mouse at all. I will come up with other reasons as we go.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And what about a rival or enemy?
Yes, there's a wizard named Vitus, Vitus, who is a Harlath, and he does not have the proper sense of fear of the dream life. He seems to be a little bit more confrontational. Other wizards, of course, and we keep an keep an eye on all the wizards and that kind of stuff to make sure that they wouldn't happen to be enslaving any of the races, but usually they're really scared of us.
Okay.
But this guy doesn't seem to have that sense of trepidation.
That sounds good to me. And then let's ask so you and Sig had a mutual friend that something bad happened to them. Who were they to both of you, and what happened?
So I think I'm a part of Sigarath's congregation, and this person whose name is Svel, Svell, was also a member of, that listened to Sig talk about the incoming doom and how beautiful it would be. Turiel's perspective on this is it's completely fine. I've got another place to go. I can just go back home, right? But and I think this person, Svel, was you said they were put in a tight spot?
Well, something has happened to them. Something bad. Are they dead? Are they imprisoned? What's going on?
I think that they were they drowned in one of the sewers and came back as a Felgrith. So we see them around, and it's kind of disturbing because they don't fully recognize us.
Yeah. Because there's a different soul in their body.
Yeah.
Essentially is the thing.
That's neat.
You like that, Patrick?
Yeah. What race were they originally?
I think they were one of the people who write tattoos, the linguistic tattoo people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The 6/6.
6/6.
Do you think Svel was associated with Kalanon, my 6/6 friend?
I think they were lovers.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like the idea.
Sad story.
Yeah, I like the idea that maybe I've been like trying to hide this from Kalanon. Like I've been trying to keep him from figuring this out.
Ooh, okay. I like it. All right. So there are a couple other tiny mechanical details I'm not going to worry about right this second. Like we're going to decide at some point your guild is going to have a marker or two on some of the other guilds, and we'll figure out what those guilds are. But right now,
quickly, Lowell, can you type in what the name of that NPC you gave to me was, and what were the we've run across 3 guilds so far?
All right, so I'll type this in. So I put Anric Mist was that NPC, and then Svel was the one he just did, and then the 3 guilds we have on the table are the Bonehaven, and then we have the Worshipful Company of Fetchers, and the Multitude.
Yeah.
All right.
By the by, do you remember the names that I gave you?
I have, and I've written them down. This is how I've written them down. I wrote down Everdom the Legion, and I wrote down Grioth the Great.
Okay.
That's how I wrote them down.
All right.
Ruben, you feel free. There's a People and Places tab in the Character Keeper.
Yeah.
Do you want to add that stuff in? That would be.
I didn't know if I had permission to do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, please type anything you want into there. It's your player's notes. So we've got some things to decide about the guild. In fact, like talking about what the guild looks like, things like that. But let me put this to you, Patrick. Let me ask you this. Why is the tower collapsing?
Our tower?
Why is the tower? You're in the tower. You guys are on a job. You're in this tower. Why is the tower collapsing?
Oh, okay. I think we tripped something, and there's a complex series of pulleys and levers and disappearing chains, and then like deep down below, we can hear in the basement of the tower gurgling as something has let loose like seawater or groundwater to come up and upset the foundation of this place as it's.
So ancient tower, old part of Varkith, then we've established, one that people have avoided. While that is happening, the tower is starting to collapse. Let me ask you, Rich, what is the immediate threat, though? What is the physical threat that is in this chamber with you right now, besides the whole thing coming down?
The immediate threat is the bugbear.
Okay.
That is being bitten by, what is the weird ant people? What are they called?
They are the crick tree.
The crick tree. A crick tree has basically covered his body and is biting and is basically the colony. I'm not sure if it hurts them bad to break apart like that, but he's covered by a crick tree and is freaking out.
So there was this bugbear guardian and another person you stumbled upon a crick tree. They might be the one that set this off, this crick tree thief. And now they've enraged this bugbear that is a significant threat because it's a red ant colony. So it is stinging this bugbear. This bugbear, which was just going to try and push you out, is kind of enraged. Tell me, Ruben, what is it that your group is here for? What is the object?
Hold on. Okay, just had to check if I was on mute.
Sure.
I would say, I would say that this is where we're looking for some information on a artifact long lost.
Okay.
This place is collapsing more because it didn't have the full investment of the people guarding the treasure. It was only meant to be a lead to the real place.
Okay. So we've got the mechanical trap that is collapsing this. It's like an old, wizard's tower that's kind of decayed, able to get in because the barriers have kind of fallen, and you're looking for a lead to the next thing, right?
Yeah, and we're on a limited time scale at this point.
Oh yeah, with the tower going down. So let me ask this of you then, Stephen. What is the thing besides the tower collapsing and this now bitten, enraged bugbear? What is the thing that is keeping you from actually getting like the sorcerer's notebook or maps?
I think that there's actually like a spell that has encompassed it that we haven't gotten through. It's like a darkness spell.
Okay.
So there's basically, it looks like a prison cell on one side of the room that's in complete darkness. And we believe it's in there. We're not sure because we haven't been able to dispel it to get to it yet.
All right. So that is our present situation. We'll figure out the physical layout more of this tower room. We know we're up high. We know we're in an ancient place. Now, typically what I do is I tend to go in an order. But if people are like, oh, I need to go, you can certainly ask to go first. We don't roll initiative. I just kind of do this generally. That's my usual thing. And since I started with you, Patrick, what do you do? Floor is shaking. We can feel it. You can tell the tower is starting to give way. Probably got that little bit of the tilt. Maybe even the Star Trek thing where we see the room kind of shaking like that. Okay.
Everybody lean. The bugbear seems more problematical than a lot of things going on, especially as it started to get stingy and thrashy and indiscriminately killy and things like that.
Absolutely. So you want to try and deal with the bugbear?
Yeah, I'm wary of this crick tree here. That does not sound fun.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys know this crick tree, or is this just a like this is a complete turnabout for you?
I don't.
Okay, so you don't know this red ant trick tree. Okay, so that sounds to me like maybe you're hack and slashing.
Oh, I should have grabbed a basic move sheet, but yeah, probably. Does hack and slash involve something where it doesn't, where I can like separate the two of them?
I would say that that would be defy danger to pull them apart. What do you think? Does that seem reasonable? Because you're both kind of adversaries right now.
Just because of nothing else, I don't want to like focus my full attention on the bugbear while that guy's right at my side or back.
Sure. How do you want to push them apart?
I think this is my shield. So as I'm coming up, I'm pulling my shield off my back, and I've got it sort of slamming up against the crick tree as I get my sword free and try and poke the bugbear back.
So that sounds like you're powering through. So I think you're going to be rolling with your strength.
Cool. One of these pages. Has anybody claimed particular color set?
Rich has purple.
I got purple.
I'll go with red here. You guys. And that. So that's 10 plus 1, I think, 11.
Oh, yeah. So you get in the way, and what happens to this crick tree? Where does the crick tree land?
So I think I slam it back, and it stumbles. Its balance stumbles, and it goes back a couple feet and sort of trips over a desk or piece of furniture here in this room as it's shaking.
Yeah. It's like a classic wizard's chamber with all the bookshelves and tables and globes and ories and all of that kind of stuff that is now starting to shake, and it falls over that. Is that cool?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think like as it gets distracted / mildly concussed, the ants that are separated from it still on the bugbear maybe stop like being in exact patterns and start going a bit random.
Okay, like maybe it was trying to actually do a spell on the bugbear, and you've managed to break that up.
I like that.
This is some sort of crypty sorcerer of some kind. Okay, so let's come to you then, Fam. What do you do?
Oh, I do the most obvious thing. I'm going to sneak around and see if this bugbear needs to be taken down. I'm looking for a backstab.
Okay. I think because of what Patrick has done and kind of pulled the bugbear apart, I think that's like him setting up an opportunity for you. Does that seem
Sounds good?
fair?
Yeah.
So if you want to try and do that backstab, I will certainly let you try that here in this situation.
Okay, when you attack a surprised or defenseless enemy with a melee weapon, you can choose to deal your damage or roll plus dex. And with that rolling plus dex, I get the opportunity to deal extra damage. So I'm going to go ahead and roll. My dex is 16, so I have a +2 modifier.
Yeah, almost no chance that you could fail.
Thanks a lot for saying that. Fucker.
What'd you roll?
I rolled a 3, which +2 means it's a 5.
That is a 5. So I think when you get over to that bugbear, there is something about those ants. You kind of go to do it, and those red ants actually swarm off into your fur. And I think you're going to take a D6 damage.
Oh, wow, stupid ants. Holy crap.
Yeah, they start biting, so you can roll a D6.
I can. It's a 4. Do I get any benefit of armor?
Yeah, I'll let you apply armor to this.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I took 3 points.
Okay. So you took a little bit of damage, and it looks like maybe that crick tree now has a mystical connection with you.
Ah!
Okay. So let's come to Hexatroth. Hexatroth, what are you doing? Ruben?
Oh, sorry.
I know first session you forget the names. Yeah.
Oh man, yep, does not bode well. Anyway, I think Hexatroth was sort of on his way up, sort of talking to one of the spirits, trying to get a guide to the place.
Okay.
So now with the tower collapsing, everything's going wrong. He's sort of panicking. He's trying to ask the spirit, like, if your master put anything nearby that would like deactivate the darkness, where would it be? Where can I rush?
Ooh, interesting.
Get the heck out of
here. I think this is you using the fiction of the spirits here to spout lore, right?
Either that, or I could speak frankly, but that would not be. I don't think that's. I think spout lore is probably better, actually.
Yeah. Let's have you do that. And make that roll with int.
Okay. Actually, I'm sorry. I have not used this one before, so how would I roll 2d6 for this?
Yeah. So to roll 2d6, essentially, if you find like those two yellow dice that are on the table, you click them both to select them, and then you.
Oh no, I found a green d12. Hold on. Oh, the two yellow 2d6.
Yeah. You click on both of those, and then there's a button up above that says Reroll Selected.
Okay.
And you'll click that, and it'll roll them.
That's a 3 again. Another 3.
So the good news is you get to mark experience. So that's the thing. Rich, I should have said that to you. I missed the opportunity to say that to you.
Yeah. Gloat now. Thanks.
So I think you're kind of concentrating, Felgrith, on the spirit, trying to talk to them as you said you're coming up, and I think you missed that the stairs that you're on go out, and I think you're clinging onto that. Does that seem like a reasonable?
So like I'm on the edge of like. When you say out, do you mean like outside the tower?
No, I mean like inside the tower, like you were coming up an inside set of stairs and it collapses and you're kind of hanging onto the floor.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I don't think any damage, but I think you are in a bad position when we come back to you. Does that seem cool?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Turiel.
So Turiel is here to get to that knowledge, that book. So she's going to jury rig probably her crystal weapon to see if she can use it to dispel that darkness.
Okay, and I think this is you using one of your gadgets to get out of a tight spot.
Quickly fix, repurpose, or fabricate a device. So I think it's the jury rig move.
Okay, so let's have you roll with int.
Yeah.
We've had some great rolls, so if you could continue that tradition.
I got a 13.
Okay, so that is not what the other people rolled. It'll hold together as long as you know it's going to dispel the darkness, and it's going to work, and you've got it together.
Right, and I think that as the darkness starts to dim, we start to see there's a book on a pedestal in there that has like this shiny gilded edges to it. It's very pretty.
Okay, so right now it's lifting some of the darkness, but in the next action you're going to use this to actually get rid of it, right? Okay. So I'm going to put the clock at a 1. Tower shaking, a bugbear, and now this sorcerer has a connection to your thief. What do you do, Sig?
So I turn and I'm like shaking the last of the ants off of my shield and fully focusing on the bugbear now, as I raise my sword and shield and advance on it and say, just because it is Varkith and you can never quite tell, you should not make assumptions. Hello, good sir. Welcome, I am Sig of the Elder Gods. I preach to you now of the great and glorious coming. You seem in pain and fire, but comfort and fear not. It is nothing as to the fire and pain you will soon feel when the Elder Gods rise from the... I'm just going on this whole speech, like trying to explain to him how it's all okay and needs to calm down and just back off now. We've got this situation handled, and maybe he should think about the state of his soul in the future.
So would you say that this is one of your moves, or are you trying to parlay with this bugbear?
If it would be at all possible to parlay with it, yes.
It will be if you can tell me what in the scene or the situation is giving you the leverage to do that.
I think the leverage is that I just beat the horrible ant colony monster off of it, and I have my shield out, and it sort of sees me as protecting him from it.
I like that. It's just crazy enough to work, or for you to roll a 3. So let's. I think that is going to be you rolling parlay. Roll with your charisma.
Would this be using parlay through unnerving strangeness and fear?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Does it allow you to roll something else?
Yeah, that gives me my unnerving from the Visligo, where I get to use wisdom instead of charisma.
Look at that. That's very clever.
As I am preaching and proselytizing to this. Maybe I do like proselytizing more than I thought. I'm obviously good at it. Wow.
Okay.
That's a 13.
That is a 13. So the bugbear kind of turns and goes, "Oh, you asshole! What's the answer? I don't understand." And it's kind of backing up, like almost like a dancing bear. Like, I just told you what's going to tell you to leave. Jesus, why? And it's kind of freaking out. It's clawing at these, and it is kind of focused on that rather than actually killing you guys. And you realize that it is like some sort of intelligent bugbear or Urson or kind of race that was maybe sent up here to be a more talky guardian that has been released by this.
Might I suggest, dear Drylander soul, there is a local temple to the Elder Gods, not a few blocks from here. Perhaps prostrating yourself for proper atonement and punishment and teaching of pain would be more successful to your future life than screaming and dancing right here.
So he's hearing some of that over the sounds of the tower starting to collapse, and so he certainly has his attention on you. So what are you going to do, fam?
So I've gotten the ants off of me. The bugbear doesn't seem like a threat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the thing that we were after?
Yes. So there is those books that are concealed by some sort of magical darkness that is starting to be lifted by Turiel's device. They're going to be on this round finishing off the warding on it.
Oh, sweet.
So would you like Turiel to go first?
Yeah, Turiel should go, and I'll support her.
Turiel, you built the item last time.
Right.
I don't think there's a role associated with it. All I want from you is to describe to me what it looks like when your device actually raises that darkness.
So basically, this is you see light come out of the crystals that Turiel's kind of put together, and it then she touches these crystals to the edge of the almost physical darkness, and there's basically a light that forms almost as if it's a flashlight shining through the darkness. And I think this beam hits the center where there's a pedestal with these books laid on it. And these books are beautiful. They look really, really pretty. And Turiel kind of turns to Fam and kind of gives her a wink and says, "There you go."
Fam, look at these books openly laying out there in a completely unsuspicious manner out there on the table. What do you want to do?
I want to scan and see what the most... Do we have time? I thought the tower was collapsing.
I've got a clock running.
Ones? I'll grab the best ones.
Okay, so no trap expert. You're going for just the straight defy danger to grab it?
Yes, I am. Just going to defy danger and go right in without thinking intelligently about traps.
That seems like dexterity for me.
Okay. That is great that you went with dexterity because I have a +2, so that 6 becomes an 8.
It becomes an 8. So I will tell you what, you can get one of the 3 books with no problem. Or you can get all of the books, but you're stuck there.
I get all the books.
Okay, so you kind of grab them up and you
just want to say in Varkith, there's that monkey's paw thing, you know, like the monkey and the knot of the tree, and no one knows that story.
Okay, yeah, so you get them all and you're like, yes, and you start to move and you realize that your tail and your feet are kind of glued to the spot.
Get a little help here.
Let's come to Hexatroth. So right now, depending on what you're doing, kind of hanging there, so falling might be a risk or consequence for what you're doing. But what do you want to try and do? You could concentrate on getting out of this, or if you want to do something else.
Actually, does Hexatroth see the does Hexatroth see Pam stuck to the ground?
Absolutely. You look over and you're kind of at ground level and you can see that both her tail and her feet and the fur are kind of stuck like a magical glue was on there.
All right, so Hexatroth is going to try to drop to the bottom floor, like the floor below. And then he's going to try to, well, I'm just going to announce this ahead of time. He's going to try to break the ceiling on top of him to get Pam to fall through.
How would you break the ceiling?
With that, let me see here. Considering that the foundations are sort of getting messed up, I would say he would actually ask the ghost to sort of work around with him. The ghost can actually sort of the ghost can actually touch him. So he's going to ask him to like carry him to certain areas where he can sort of manipulate where things are falling apart. Okay.
So let me give you your things here. So you can do this, and we'll let you try and do that on, if you want to do that on the same round, kind of drop down, try and do that. Then there's some serious risk to you in terms of falling. If you want to take this round to just kind of drop down and move over to get in position, then essentially the sort of damage consequences are going to be reduced. Want to be more risky or less risky?
I think I'm going to try to be more risky. We're in a falling tower already, and I'm feeling a bit good, even though I just rolled a 3. So the way I'm going to picture it is that I'm going to like reach out to my hand to the ghost. I'm going to ask him to swoop me down below, sort of carry me around. I'm going to grab some of the chunks of the rock and start tossing it towards where Pam was, underneath her. Fam, sorry.
That's okay. Essentially trying to break that. Okay. So I think this is a
probably a dex.
Yeah, I'll give you this. Let's do dex with defy danger here. With some serious potential damage consequences for you.
Yeah. Reroll selected. That's an 8.
That's an 8. So the simplest way to say this is that you can do this and essentially break that glue off, but you're going to drop some of this down on you and take some damage.
I think I'll take that.
Okay. So let's have you roll a D8 damage.
Okay.
Because you kind of rushed, you got the spirit to help you out there. I'm fine because it was already existing in the fiction. You kind of pull that down. And what hits you?
The rock sort of breaks underneath Fam, but then some more just crumbles in addition to it because it just causes a chain reaction. The supports are already breaking, and before I can even dodge it, too much of the ceiling has already fallen.
All right, roll a D8.
Okay. Armor included or no?
Yeah, and then subtract armor.
Okay. Hold on. I gotta find it. Okay. Reroll select. That is that a wait? Oh, sorry. 7.
7. So you're gonna take
So 6 damage.
6 damage. So it lands pretty solidly. Fam, when the rocks kind of come out from under you, how is it that breaks that magical glue?
I think that it does underneath my feet because like the rocks just start to break underneath. But I think that her tail is still stuck to a large rock and it just yanks her down. So she's got little bits of dirt on the bottom of her boots, which were super expensive. And but yeah, there's a whole big clunky bit on the back of her tail. She still has the books. Still has the books.
Still have the books. She still has the books. The clock goes to 2. At the end of clock 3, the tower is going to collapse. I'm telling you guys that now. All right. But right now we're still in a situation. Patrick, I'm going to need you to defy danger. And I'll tell you why. Because this crick tree has not been dealt with. It's gotten up, and you've dealt with the bugbear. But I think you're going to have to deal with the fact that you kind of left him open to his devices. So let's have you roll defy danger.
All right. So as I was explaining to the bugbear, this brief and passing stinging pain is nothing to the holy cleansing that will come in the time of the arising. And so this, these ants, they are but annoyances, and I am focused on preaching. So I think it'd be con, as I am just ignoring this crick tree and focusing all of my ministerial attentions on this bugbear.
Okay.
Dice stuff and 10.
10. So yeah, essentially, it lets loose with clearly, pulls some of the arcane energy. Oh.
I'm sorry, I thought I had a higher con than I do. 9.
So a 9. So I think you've got a choice. The either the mystical energy that hits you will knock you down to the next floor, or you can take some damage.
I think I'll take damage.
Okay, so you'll take just a little bit of damage. It's just going to be a D4 damage here because of that bargain.
Let's see, so that's of course 4 minus my. I guess it would hit my Inquisitor armor, but I'm focused on the bear, so the shield wouldn't help.
That is correct.
Okay, so 3 damage.
And so this crick tree hits you with this in the middle of your preaching. What do you do?
I look at the bugbear, who seems to be digesting my message and considering his options while he dances ecstatically in the throes of his holy pain.
He's also looking at the window.
That's good. He's thinking about the fastest way to get to the temple, and that's the sort of religious fervor I'm looking for out of people.
Okay.
So I will say to him very calmly and undistractedly, "Thank you for your time. Please, as you consider the state of your soul, give me just one moment to deal with this other heretic / potential convert." And I will turn to the crick tree and say, "You, sir, that is incredibly rude. I was obviously in the middle of talking, but I have freed up my schedule, and what are the matters that you would like me to address in your soul?"
So, what is it you want to do here?
I
don't think you have leverage on this guy.
Let's see. I think I'm just advancing on him slowly with my shield up and talking, and I'm trying to keep all of his attention and evil black magics on me. So maybe this is a defend?
Yeah, I like that. I like that, essentially to interfere with his ability to zotch or anything your allies. Let's have you roll con.
Okay. And also you. And there. Oof. That's a 7, though.
That is a 7. So you get to hold 1. So you essentially, you'll be able to have something or open him up to an attack or something of that sort. So I'm going to come back to you, though. We'll find out when this thing goes. But right now, fam, hey, you know that the tower's going to collapse here soon.
Yes.
You're unstuck.
I'm unstuck.
Yes.
I have the books. I'm screaming, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I'm running as fast as I can to get out of the tower.
So tell me the method. We know we have a window. We know that you're on an upper floor. Is the window the way you're getting out?
Yeah, I have my tail. I can land.
Okay, so this is you running out and leaping out the window, action hero style.
Totally.
Totally.
Holding the books, legs
It's like pushing the bugbear out of the way. My window.
I think that seems like dexterity.
Sure. Oh my goodness, I look pretty dope, guys. I just rolled a 9 and +2, a 4, and 11.
Tell me what that looks like. I mean, do you hit another building? Do you swing with your tail? Do you run down the tower as it's collapsing? What do we see?
Oh gosh, I love running down the tower as it's collapsing, like stairs collapsing behind her. Tail
turning, tilting, going down the slope of it. Okay, so you're running down. You've got all the books.
Very Charlie Chaplin kind of thing going on.
Is it night or day?
It's night because that's the scariest.
Absolutely. So you see the ruins of the other buildings around this. So maybe people out in the streets, but they can't quite tell what's going on as you're running down the tower. Hexatroth, what are you doing? How are you getting out of the tower? Muted.
Well, seeing that, Fam managed to just bolt out of the tower like that.
With all the stuff.
Yeah, I think Hexatroth is going to try to follow their lead.
Try to clamber up and get to another window and try to make out that way?
Yeah, he might actually get some aid from the ghost, considering it's also floating as well. So he can sort of hang on to it.
Interesting. I think we're still talking Dex here, though. For the
agreed.
Yeah, I think in the fiction we see the ghost kind of pushing you up to get that last little boost up to the window, assuming that you roll well.
Yeah. I also sort of imagine him sort of grabbing my hand, and I'm just sort of floating down with him, sort of.
Okay.
Now reroll selected.
Yep.
Does this even? Did I even click it? Hold on. Did I even? Is it buffering or?
Did you select the dice again first?
I did. It's weird. There we go. Oh, a 9.
Look at that.
Which is plus my. So basically, exactly what he got.
Okay, so yeah, you are. I imagine that Fam. We see sort of the acrobatic, tumbling and moving and stuff. Whereas you're probably the ghost is kind of keeping you aloft, gliding, probably bouncing off the tower as it's going down.
Yeah.
And what about Turiel?
So, just so I understand, does the tower collapse at the end of my turn or at the end of the next round?
At the end of this turn.
Okay. And I think that Siggy Akarak is still looking around talking to people.
Yeah, there's the crick tree. There's the bugbear who's going for the window, probably filling it right now, and you.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to turn on one of my gadgets, or a couple of my gadgets, which are the hover and ethereal.
Okay.
But, Sig also needs something, so I think I'm going to slap one of these crystals on Sig's back and see if I can extend that. So
interesting.
The two gadgets allow me to hover, and the tower will fall around me, and I really like the image of, the tower collapsing and we're kind of stuck in midair. But I'm going to try and get Sig out as well by extending this.
All right, so that does seem like getting out of a tight spot.
Okay. So what is that?
That is int.
Int. Okay, so I'll roll int. And I had rolled a 5 plus 2 is 7.
7. Okay, so it works as expected, but you have to choose 2 things from the field test move.
Oh, okay. And let's see. I think I'll spend a charge, and I think it won't last long.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me what that looks like.
So I think that, the bugbear desperately jumps out the window, and I grab a hold of kind of the collar of Cigarette's outfit, and I think I kind of turn to the ant construct and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and it collapses. The tower collapses around us, and it kind of passes through us.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're kind of dragged down, and we kind of come down very quickly. Normally we would just kind of hover there in place and everything would look great, but I think we pull down very quickly and kind of land on top of the rubble of the tower in an undignified manner.
All right.
So yeah, I think you come up behind Sig and you grab his shoulder, and just as the tower disappears around us, he's just in the middle of, and that's the point when the priests will bring out their holy scouring pads to clean all of the skin cells and nerve endings from you. Where did he go? That was rather rude. He just ow.
There's 1,000 tiny little shrieks as the Krikti gets buried under the rubble of this tower as it collapses. We see the bugbear kind of rolling in a most ungainly manner down the tower, probably pretty banged up by the time it hits the ground. But you 4 can meet up on the street. Essentially huge amount of noise. This is collapsed down. We established that this is an older neighborhood, so there's lots of old buildings and stuff, and people are now starting to look out their windows as you guys meet up on the ground. And the bugbear's trying to get itself up. You can tell it is not in great shape. So, fam, what are you doing? Are you just going to take off here, or are you?
Well, no, I watched the rubble because my friends and Turiel's in there, and also
Well, you will see then Turiel and Sig drop down at first Mary Poppins style, but then much more quickly. Before they land.
Is there any there's nothing I could throw in the way for them to land on, I think. So I'll think about it and then watch.
Okay. So assuming you guys have landed there, kind of catch your breath, there is that cloud of dust from the building that is kind of slowly rising up and enveloping. And you'll probably hear the sounds of whatever private law or order keeper guild operates in this area. You'll hear the whistles of that, as essentially they're clearly gathering themselves to see what's going on.
Friends, I hesitate to point out, but we didn't actually manage to procure a demolitions license for this block, so this is an unlicensed modification to a tower structure in the city. I fear the law may have something to say about that.
And I think so. Turiel turns to Hexatroth and kind of looks inquisitively. You think that'll be okay, or do you think they'll be mad at us?
I don't. I think we can go away just fine. Honestly, this is a place on the outskirts, and I don't think they'll mind too much about this place. They probably had plans to have a demolition team take it down anyway. They were probably just too scared to go through all the traps. I think if we just explain things, it'll save us the trouble.
Great. So Turiel turns to Fam and reaches out for the books to say, let me see that.
Okay. She hands like one of the books over and holds the other two and says, I would like to suggest that we just run. I think that's a better tactic than explaining this and hoping that they were going to destroy the building, unless you know something about the building, Hexatroth. Like, did you give us a briefing and I didn't pay attention? Or I don't think you told us. No, you didn't tell us about the building.
Out of character, would this count as my bardic lore?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I will say that in bardic lore, you would have known that they had avoided doing it. Now, that may give you some leverage for parlay if you want to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem fair?
All right. Yeah, that seems fair.
So it looks like Hexatroth is going to stand his ground here, fam, when the authorities come. The police, the popo.
I'll see you back at the shop. I mean, the Museum of Antiquities or whatever we're calling it this week.
Oh, no. We're supposed to stay here. We haven't even gotten the real thing yet. This is just books that are going to help us get to the lead. We can't just go back yet.
Well, you got to go back to deciphering that.
Also, I have rocks on my tail. I'm going back.
You're running back with rocks on your tail? Surely you can do that here.
I'm very private about tail care.
So here's the question. Certainly, it seems like Fam wants to depart. There's been some talking. I don't think nobody's going to directly interfere if Fam decides to go.
Doesn't seem to be the case.
Okay. So does that seem cool, Rich? Okay. You take off. Sig, what are you doing? You remaining here?
Well, yes, I suppose if we're going to talk to the law keepers, I'll need to explain the pending status of our permit for this area and how it's, I might need to hit someone or just talk them to death.
That seems fair. And what about you, Turiel?
So Turiel, as soon as Fam takes off, Turiel's kind of grasping at the other books and kind of follows wherever the books go. Yeah.
Okay. So you two kind of vanish off. You will see this group led by an Orcari in like chainmail and got the big oversized Orcari blade on its back. They're good 6 foot something, that snout there. It's got the sort of the purple war paint on, and there's another group of people behind, and it belligerently approaches and starts doing the lawgiver, illegal, blah, 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 kind of goes through that and got his people behind him. But you did your research to give you leverage. But we're in kind of a hostile situation. So I think this is going to be your parlay, right?
Yeah. And I think the leverage is that this was pending for demolition and that there were no actual volunteers. So even though this is by technicality a non-legal act for this place, it is actually a favor in essence for them.
All right. Let's have you roll parlay and let's see what happens.
All right. 26. 11 without even the modifier.
So this Orcari listens, and you have some paperwork. All right, get out of here. Get out of here, 3. Get.
We're gone.
And you can take off. And this bugbear will kind of dust itself off and look around and split in another direction.
As he's sort of dismissing us, I'm going to reach in and grab the paperwork and point to the last page and just say, if I could just get you to sign an initial that we were responsible for the destruction, I can turn this in to the local Temple of the Elder God Guild Hall, and of course they will sign off on this whole thing. No, why are you looking at me like this? Sign it. I'd like to try and give an NPC an order.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Essentially, this is you're trying to maybe rope some money for the guild.
Yeah, by implying that I'm working for the local Visliga temple.
That seems like it follows off of what you've set up here. So let's have you roll with charisma.
Are you the law?
We'll see. Oof, I'm not a great law. That's 6, 7, 8.
Okay, so they will do what you say, which is great. I mean, essentially, they don't particularly want to fight. I mean, even though the Akari has big weapons, he was, in a noodle shop when this all went down, and those noodles are getting cold, so.
And just initial.
And hands that back to you.
May the Elder Ones cleanse your souls and the souls of your children.
Wait, what? And we'll cut on that line back to the guild hall.
Imagine when he just says that, like, wait, what? He just runs. He's gone.
Yeah. So this museum, Rich, your fame is probably first back to the museum.
Mm-hmm.
What is your little guild hall like? What is the museum like?
Oh, well, people, of course, can object, but I'm really fascinated with the idea of the front room looking like a library, and then there are little alcoves off of the library, and of course it's got one of those little spiral staircases that go up to a second story, and there are all kinds of books and tomes, and the alcoves have like a museum where you can go here, and then there's got to be a couple of like secret doors where, oh, you pull this door, then you pull this book, then all of a sudden that's where we keep the other stuff and the things. And then there's the back area where the artificer, where you can do your work, of course, like the workshop in the back, which is right past the break room.
I assume you have a couple of employees, people who keep watch over your area and keep watch of the shop when you're not there.
We get employees?
Yeah. You've got Territory 1, and so you guys have been around for a little while.
Yes, we have employees.
Okay. So essentially, let's call the person behind the counter Molly.
Molly the Isku.
Molly the Isku. As you come back, Molly is terrified of anything sharp or dangerous or things. Doesn't go out, and is actually terrified of most of the things in here. So she mostly stays at that desk, and she's like, when you come in and you are covered in rocks and you're clutching these dangerous tomes to you, she kind of hits the button that probably brings up like a little wall on the counter. And then she kind of looks through and she's like, was it successful?
Turiel, I hate that wall.
Turiel walks through the wall.
Yeah. So Turiel, so we got this shop. We've established some details about it. We got this museum. What's the neighborhood like?
Oh, so I think this is sort of like the French Quarter in New Orleans, where you basically, there's all sorts of shops, and if you we're actually on like an offshoot road, or if you head down an offshoot road, you might find a great, clothing place, and then right next to it is a shop that sells like the skeletons of dead animals, like done artistically, and things like that. And we're along one of those options.
Yeah. So tight rows, weird shops. This is a district known for the strangest stores. A place of high oddnesses. Probably some stacked. Most of these places probably have apartments up on top of them where the people who work in them live, and so on. Let me ask you this, Hexatroth, as you arrive back, any distinguishing neighbors? Do you have anything that's close by that is an important factor for your guild?
Important factor for the guild.
Yeah. Do you have a striking neighbor, somebody unusual or something useful?
I would say we do have a striking neighbor. He's a bit erratic, I would say.
Okay.
Sort of like the crazy guy in the basement kind of deal. And he always seems to get information that it doesn't make sense. Sometimes the information outright doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's useful, and sometimes. But he's one of the guys on the list that we keep an eye on.
Okay. So
sometimes he'll give us the lead.
It's this old Orkari who has this chair that they take down onto the street and they set up in the equivalent of Orkari bathrobes, and talking to people, and hanging out and drinking, and essentially does that from dawn to dusk, and then goes gets another bottle and does it from dusk to midnight.
He was actually applying with the town, with the village, that he become a tourist attraction, an official tourist attraction, but the paperwork hasn't really settled in yet, but he's working on it, actually.
Yeah. Because he knows all kinds of stuff, man. That's how he does. Can't touch the dude Orkari. It's all good, man. All good. And last thing I'm going to ask, Patrick, when you guys aren't there, we know Molly is at the front. Who is the employee who manages things when you four sort of key players aren't around?
I like the idea of another freed one.
Okay.
There. I think someone who likes to experiment / investigate into the weirder magical properties of some things that we have, like someone who a freed one who dreams of becoming a true wizard someday, like an arcane master at some point, so sort of experimenting with the items at hand.
So what are they? Giant turtle, giant caterpillar? What are they?
God, I like giant caterpillar with a fez.
Okay. And do you have a name?
I don't. I'm terrible at names.
Okay, so the caterpillar's name is Lonsdale.
Okay.
And essentially, it is. I mean, it's not the sort of the cute caterpillar of Alice in Wonderland. This is a magical caterpillar summoned by a wizard at some point, and is maybe resentful of the wizard not transforming him into a butterfly. And that's part of what he believes in, is that if he can become a mage, he can transform himself. And I imagine he almost looks like a purple worm kind of thing. Has that, and is not particularly cute.
Nice. I like that idea of like the constant search for the thing that'll trigger his chrysalis.
Yes. And he very carefully enters in the books into the inventory, into the ledgers here. Okay. 2 books or 3 books? 3 books or 2 books? 2 books or 1 book? How many books?
3 books.
3 books. Then looks at them and carefully writes down the description, and then shuts the thing. I think that's where we're going to stop for today.
Actually, if
yes.
you don't mind, I'd like to get a move on the table.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you've got one.
Yeah, I've got a move. Let me see that. So whenever I take a few moments to handle or examine something interesting,
okay,
I can ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
So this is something that that you can answer at the beginning of the next session if you want. But
I may do that.
While handling these books, the first question is what's wrong with this and how might I fix it?
Okay.
And the second question is, what does it do?
Wrong. What does it do? So we've got 3 books. with 3 leads to some cool stuff. I'm going to answer those questions at the start of next session. If that's cool with everybody, this kind of gives us a little bit of setup. We got a little taste of things. I do want to deal out XP.
Lol, just as another flag for the start of the next one.
Sure.
From the Visliga, I do have the Dreams of the Future. Whenever I make camp or rest, I experience dreams of the future sent from the elder things. So I imagine that would probably happen in between sessions, sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
we'll click off those at the start of next session. Anyone else have start of session things?
So, out of curiosity, does that mean we're basically making camp here?
Yeah.
So would I heal my? Well, actually, I don't heal.
Right.
I just remembered. Right. Okay. I still need to get money for that.
Right. So you'll heal. So you'll get the rest. So you'll be able to heal damage equal to half your max XP. HP rather.
I think I will though. I'll use a bandage, so I'll heal 4.
Okay. So let's see. So let's check our flags and see if we can get you guys a couple more XP. Patrick, did anybody hit one of your flags?
It's several people hit my mangle my name flag.
Okay. So you will get an XP because they hit your flag. Did you hit anybody else's flag?
I was looking for a place, but I don't felt like I found anything.
Okay. Well, we'll look at that. This is first session. We're playing with the flags, and it was a shortened thing, so not unusually wouldn't hit that. Fam, did anyone hit one of your flags?
Well, we'd already. I don't know. Did anybody point out a treasure for Fam?
Who was the one who pointed out the books?
Yeah, I feel like Turiel shined a freaking light on a treasure you shouldn't have been touching.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So you will get a point for that. Did you hit anybody else's?
I feel like it. I mangled Sig's name. I asked Hexatroth about the history of the building, and
nice.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance. Like, I was actually setting up to talk to Turiel on the walk back, but we kind of fast forwarded, so I didn't get a chance to do any of Turiel's. It's okay. It's just saying that like I had a plan, but I did not execute.
Hexatroth, what about you? It looks like we definitely got one of your things hit.
I was also going to say that Patrick definitely hit my defer to me when dealing with polite society, since he was the one that stuck by me when I did the talk.
Okay.
I would say.
Yep. True.
And did you hit somebody else's?
No, I don't think I did, unfortunately.
Okay. So that's still 1 point.
Yeah.
And then Turiel, we know that you hit some other people's stuff. Did anybody hit one of yours?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Not quite yet, but so we get a point for that. Did anybody hit their alignment things?
I think I might have hit mine, which is perform your art to aid someone else.
I like that. Fam, it looks like you probably definitely backstab.
And what about the salvage a lost or forgotten piece of technology?
Yeah, I think you got these books and things. I'll give you that. I'm being generous on points today because I'm a kind of generous GM.
I struggled with which of my alignments to go with because they all seemed a little bit off. But I went with good, endanger yourself to protect someone weaker than you, on the thought that, people should be preserved for their judgment by the elder gods.
Yes.
So I do think I stepped in. I protected a bugbear, and I tried to protect the other people in the party.
That's perfect. So you'll get a point for that. So that's where we're going to wrap up today. So we're going to stop. The next session, we'll start with those start of session moves. Steven's going to be a little bit late to that session, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
About an hour later. So
I'll probably hold off on answering your book questions on that. Though I may make some notes in between. I'll figure out. And I'll give you some free play time. Maybe when Steven's back, we'll look at how you do a guild turn, how you take those actions and how you resolve those.
Do we get the usual end of session questions, the 3 ones?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I should ask those. Thank you.
I thought you were a really generous GM, but you're trying to hoard
I'm trying to hose you guys here on this.
He's feeling kind of hosed there.
Yeah, no, that is a good thing. It has been a while. So let me get to those questions. That is that. Did you learn something new and important about the world?
Nothing but.
Okay.
That was pretty much half of our time here, I think.
Yeah. Did you overcome a notable monster or enemy?
I think the falling tower probably made it more notable than it originally would have been.
Yeah. And certainly that crick tree.
Yeah, crick tree sorcerer is creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, he may return.
But
so
luckily,
yes.
he's obviously dead now.
Obviously. And did you loot a memorable treasure? Yes.
That we did.
So, Ruben, you have gotten the group 3 more XP by reminding us of that move. So 3 more points, everybody.
Way to remember the rules.
Oh, that's great.
That might push some people up close or to it.
I'm on the precipice.
Ooh.
Right on the edge.
So cross.
Okay. So we'll do that next time. We'll do sort of check-in, debrief at the end of the next session. I like to do it like odd sessions, or rather even sessions, every couple. But if anybody has any questions, or if having made your character and looked at how things are, you're like, this move doesn't really fit, feel free to say, oh, I want to change something. And we can change it between now and next session, if that seems cool with everybody. All right. Any questions? Hearing none, I will stop the broadcast.